They say love makes you blind, but betrayal gives you perfect vision. 20 years. 20 goddamn years I spent building a life with Laura, thinking we were partners in something real. I'd drag myself out of bed at 5:30 every morning, pull on steel-toed boots, and spend 10 hours managing construction crews. My hands are scarred from concrete burns. My back aches from years of heavy lifting. While I was breaking my body to build our future, Laura was living like a queen. Designer handbags, weekly spa appointments, lunch dates with her circle of entitled friends who looked at me like I was the help whenever they gathered at our house. They'd sip expensive wine on the deck I'd built and make subtle comments about blue-collar limitations. Laura never worked after we married. No kids to raise. We'd tried for years before accepting it wasn't happening, so she filled her time with yoga classes and shopping expeditions. I didn't mind supporting her lifestyle then. I loved her, and seeing her happy felt like success. But something shifted this past year. Laura started spending hours on her phone, taking selfies in our kitchen, posing next to our cars. She joined social media, flaunting our comfortable life like we were millionaires. New followers appeared daily, men with hungry eyes commenting on every photo. The fitness obsession started around the same time. Laura hired a personal trainer, a 25-year-old named Chad with perfect abs. Suddenly, she was at the gym 2 hours daily, buying expensive workout clothes, talking constantly about transformation. Then came the beauty treatments. Botox injections, chemical peels, professional hair extensions. Our joint checking account hemorrhaged money, while Laura emerged from each appointment looking younger but somehow more foreign to me. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in March. Laura stormed into the living room, where I was reviewing blueprints, her face flushed with determination. "The girls and I have been planning a trip to Cabo San Lucas," she announced. 2 weeks at a luxury resort. The number came the next morning, $8,000. Laura presented it like a business proposal, complete with printed itineraries and resort brochures. $8,000? I felt my chest tighten. "Laura, that's almost 3 months of take-home pay." "I've been taking care of your house and your life for 20 years, she snapped. I think I've earned a little luxury. The fights began that day and continued for weeks. Every conversation became a battlefield where Laura weaponized my concerns as evidence of controlling behavior. Her friends fueled the fire during their gatherings. Control issues, Jennifer would say during their wine sessions. Very common with blue-collar men. Their laughter felt like razors across my skin. The final argument happened on a Friday night. Laura had been drinking wine since dinner. "You know what your problem is, Michael?" she said, pacing in front of me. "You're scared I'll realize what I'm missing. You're terrified that I'll see how other people live and decide I deserve better than a construction worker." "Is that what you think of me?" I asked quietly. "After 20 years. "I think you've gotten comfortable using money as a leash," she replied coldly. "But I'm not your pet." I looked at this woman I'd loved and realized I was staring at a stranger. "Fine," I said quietly. "Take the trip." I drove Laura to the airport on a Thursday morning in late March, loading her designer luggage while her friends giggled and whispered. They kept exchanging glances and poorly concealed smirks. That evening, I went to mail Laura's forgotten phone charger and discovered something that changed everything. Hidden in her nightstand drawer was a second phone, a cheap prepaid device I'd never seen before. I stood there holding that burner phone, and for the first time in 20 years, I realized I didn't know my wife at all, but she was about to learn that she didn't know me either. The house felt different without Laura's constant chatter, endless phone calls, television shows I never chose but always endured. For the first day, I actually enjoyed the peace. I ate breakfast in silence, read the newspaper cover to cover, went to bed at 9 o'clock. By the second day, the quiet started feeling heavier. I kept catching myself listening for Laura's key in the lock. 20 years of routine doesn't disappear overnight, but the memory of that hidden phone gnawed at me. On the third morning, I made coffee and stared at the prepaid device. Laura had been careful. No saved contacts, no text history, all calls deleted. Someone had coached her on operational security. That realization shifted something inside me from confusion to methodical analysis. I'd spent 2 decades managing complex construction projects, coordinating dozens of workers, troubleshooting problems before they became disasters. I knew how to investigate, document, and plan. I started with our finances. Laura had always handled the household budget, but now I pulled every statement from the past 6 months. The pattern emerged like a blueprint. January, won $200 on fitness equipment. $800 at Victoria's Secret. $650 at a high-end salon. February, $2,100 at Nordstrom. $450 for professional photography. $320 for a dating profile consultation service. March, $1,800 at a medical spa. $900 for a wardrobe stylist. Every purchase designed to attract male attention. Every expense preparing for something I wasn't invited to witness. Laura's social media told the rest of the story. Photos of our kitchen, staged to look like a magazine spread. Pictures of herself in expensive workout clothes posed next to my truck. Images of our bedroom, living room, backyard deck, all tagged with location data and hashtags like #blessed. The comments made my stomach turn. Dozens of men praising her amazing lifestyle and asking about her lucky husband. She'd been advertising our life like a dating profile, using my hard work as bait. Instead of rage, I felt something colder settle in my chest. Laura thought she was playing chess while I played checkers, but she'd made a crucial miscalculation. I might be a construction worker, but I'd built my career on understanding people and solving complex problems under pressure. I reached out to Jason Martinez, my college roommate who'd built a successful restaurant consulting business. We'd stayed in touch over the years. Jason owed me a favor from his early startup days when I'd invested $10,000 that helped him avoid bankruptcy. "Mike, good to hear from you, man," he said when he answered. "How's married life treating you?" "That's actually why I'm calling," I replied. "I might need some advice about relationship issues." We talked for an hour. I didn't reveal specifics, but I painted a picture of a wife seeking attention outside our marriage. Jason listened carefully, asking strategic questions about Laura's personality, her motivations, her weaknesses. "Women like that are usually testing boundaries," he said thoughtfully. "Sometimes they need to learn that choices have costs." "What would you suggest?" I asked. "Give her enough rope, Mike," he replied. "Let her show you exactly who she is when she thinks nobody's watching." After hanging up, I spent the evening consulting with lawyers and accountants. I reviewed our prenuptial agreement, a document Laura had signed without reading. The agreement heavily favored me, especially if adultery could be proven. On the 4th night, I sat in my workshop, organizing files and planning my next moves. When Laura's name flashed on my phone that 4th night, I almost smiled. She had no idea she was calling to confess to a prosecutor who already had her file ready. I let the phone ring 3 times before answering. Background noise flooded through the speaker, laughter, music, clinking glasses, the sound of a party in full swing. "Michael?" Laura's voice was slurred and giddy, transformed into someone I'd never heard before. "Michael, are you there?" "I'm here," I answered calmly. "Good, good," she said with fake sweetness. "I was just thinking about you, sitting there in your boring little house watching your boring little television shows." Her friends giggled in the background. "How's the trip, Laura?" I asked. "Oh, it's amazing," she gushed. "Absolutely amazing. You cannot imagine how incredible this place is. The beaches, the food, the people. Real people, not like the losers back home." She was drunk, but there was something else in her voice. A manic excitement that made my skin crawl. "The girls and I went to this restaurant tonight, Ricardo's," she continued breathlessly. "It's right on the water, most romantic place you've ever seen. Not like the Olive Garden dates you think are fancy." More laughter from her audience. "Sounds nice," I replied evenly. "Nice," she laughed harshly. "Michael, it's paradise. And the owner, God, the owner is incredible. His name is Ricardo, like the restaurant. And he's everything you're not." The words hit like she intended, but I kept my voice steady. "Is that right?" "He's successful, Michael," she said, her voice getting more animated. "Really successful. He owns 3 restaurants down here, drives a Maserati, lives in this gorgeous house on the cliff. And he's fit, really fit. Not like some construction worker with a beer gut." I looked down at my stomach. still flat after 20 years of physical labor, and realized Laura was performing for her friends as much as attacking me. "He sounds impressive," I said mildly. "Impressive?" Laura's laugh was brittle and cruel. "He's everything I've been missing. Do you know what it's like being married to someone so limited? Someone who thinks a big night out is Applebee's and a movie?" "Tell me about it," I replied. Something in my calm tone seemed to frustrate her. I could hear whispering in the background, her friends coaching her to be more direct. "We slept together, Michael," she announced suddenly. The words hung in the air like smoke. Laura waited for my reaction, anger, pleading, devastation. Instead, I said nothing. "Did you hear me?" she pressed. "I said we slept together. Last night and again this afternoon. Right here in my beautiful suite that you paid for. I heard you," I said quietly. "And?" Her voice cracked slightly. "This wasn't going according to her script. And what?" I asked. "That's it?" she demanded. "That's all you have to say? Your wife just told you she's having the best intimacy of her life with another man. And you're acting like I told you about the weather." I could hear her friends murmuring encouragement, telling her to really let me have it. "He made me feel things you never could," Laura continued, her voice getting stronger. "He knows how to treat a woman, how to make her feel desired and beautiful and alive. Not like some roommate he tolerates." "Good for you," I said simply. "Good for me?" Now she sounded genuinely confused. "Michael, are you listening? I'm telling you that I found someone better, someone who can give me the life I deserve. Ricardo wants me to stay here, start over with him, then stay," I replied. "What?" she stammered. "If you're happy with him, don't come back," I said clearly. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. When Laura spoke again, her voice was smaller, uncertain. You can't be serious," she whispered. "I'm completely serious," I answered. "You've made your choice. I respect it, but you can't just—" she started, then stopped. "I mean, we're married. We have a house, a life together. You just spent 10 minutes telling me how much you hate that life," I pointed out. "I didn't say hate. I said, Laura," I said, cutting through her stammering. "You called to tell me you're f***ing another man and planning to leave me for him. I'm telling you that's fine. Consider yourself free." "Michael, wait," she began desperately. I hung up. Within minutes, text messages started flooding my phone. Laura's drunken confidence had evaporated, replaced by panic and desperate backpedaling. While Laura sent increasingly frantic messages, I executed the first phase of my plan. I called our bank and reported suspicious activity, requesting immediate freezes on all cards. As the primary account holder, I had complete authority to protect our assets from potential fraud. Next, I activated power of attorney documents Laura had signed years ago, giving me broad authority to make financial decisions in emergency situations. By morning, Laura would have no access to our money. Laura thought she was calling to destroy me, but she'd just signed her own death warrant. Tomorrow, she'd learn the difference between a betrayal and a prosecution. My phone started buzzing at 7:23 a.m. Pacific time. Laura's first call came through angry and demanding, her voice sharp with entitlement. "Michael, what the hell did you do?" she demanded without preamble. "My card was declined at breakfast, and the bank says our accounts are frozen." I was sitting on my back deck with coffee and the morning paper. "Good morning, Laura," I said pleasantly. "Sleep well?" "Don't give me that shit," she snapped. "Fix this right now." "I can't fix fraud prevention protocols, Laura," I replied calmly. "The bank flagged suspicious activity and froze everything for security purposes." "Suspicious activity?" she asked, her voice rising. "What suspicious activity?" "Large cash withdrawals in Mexico, unusual spending patterns, account access from foreign locations," I explained. "Standard precautions when they detect potential identity theft." "Identity theft?" she screeched. "Michael, it's me. I'm your wife." "Are you?" I asked quietly. "Because last night you called to tell me you're starting a new life with another man. That sounds like someone else entirely." The line went quiet except for background noise. Voices, suitcase wheels rolling, hotel lobby chaos. "Look, I was drunk," she said, her tone shifting to wheedling. "I said things I didn't mean, but you can't hold our money hostage because you're upset." "I'm not holding anything hostage," I replied evenly. Ask your dream man. Didn't he promise you everything? The silence stretched until she hung up. Over the next hour, texts flooded my phone, each one revealing more desperation. This isn't funny anymore. I need money for meals and transportation. Ricardo is busy with restaurant stuff. He can't help right now. You're being cruel and childish. I didn't respond to any of them. The second call came at noon. Laura's voice had shifted from anger to confusion. Michael, please, she began, sounding smaller. I'm trying to be reasonable here. I made a mistake, okay? I got caught up in the vacation atmosphere and said stupid things. But I'm your wife, and I need access to our money. Our money? I asked. Yesterday you told me you wanted to start over with someone who could give you a better life. I'm just helping you with that independence. That's not what I meant. And you know it, she replied weakly. What I know, I said, is that you called me drunk, bragged about cheating on me, and announced you're leaving me for another man. Those seem like pretty clear statements. I could hear her crying, but it sounded performative rather than genuine. Ricardo isn't... He's not available to help right now, she admitted reluctantly. His restaurants keep him very busy. I see, I said thoughtfully. So the man who wants to give you a new life can't spare enough time to buy his future wife lunch? It's complicated, she said defensively. I'm sure it is, I replied. The third call came at 4 p.m., and Laura's composure had completely cracked. Michael, I'm begging you, she sobbed. I had to borrow money from Jennifer just to eat today, and she's making it clear that she's not happy about it. The girls are starting to distance themselves because I can't pay my share of activities. Where's Ricardo? I asked. He's been different since yesterday, she said, her voice breaking. Colder, like he's avoiding me. Interesting, I mused. What changed? I don't know, she cried. Everything was perfect. And then suddenly he's making excuses about being busy, not returning my calls. The hotel staff told me he hasn't been in the restaurant since yesterday morning. For the first time since this started, I felt something approaching sympathy for my wife. But then I remembered her voice from the night before. The cruelty, the calculated humiliation, the way she'd performed my destruction for her friend's entertainment. Maybe he lost interest when he realized you don't actually have access to the lifestyle you've been advertising. I suggested. What do you mean? She asked, confused. Laura, you've spent months posting pictures of our house, our cars, our comfortable life on social media, I explained. You presented yourself as a wealthy woman living a dream lifestyle. Without my income to maintain that image, what exactly do you have to offer? The sobbing started then, raw and desperate. Please, Michael, she begged. I'm alone here. My friends are treating me like a liability. Ricardo won't take my calls, and I'm stuck in a foreign country with no money. I'll do anything to fix this. Anything? I asked. Yes, she said eagerly. Anything. I was wrong, I was stupid, I was drunk and emotional. But we've been together 20 years. That has to count for something. I let her hang in silence for a full minute, listening to her ragged breathing. Laura? I said finally. Yes? She whispered hopefully. Do you remember what you said last night about finding someone better? I asked. About how Ricardo could give you everything you deserve? I didn't mean it, she said quickly. Yes, you did, I replied firmly. You meant every word and we both know it. The only thing you didn't mean was having to face the consequences. Michael, please, she began desperately. This line won't be available after today, I said with finality. Divorce is already in motion. Don't bother coming back. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. That evening, I sat in my workshop reviewing the evidence I'd compiled. Financial records showing Laura's systematic preparation for an affair. Screenshots of her social media activity designed to attract men. Documentation of her hidden phone and secret planning. But the most damning evidence was the recordings from the previous night's call, which I'd automatically captured using an app. Laura's own words, preserved in perfect digital clarity, admitting to adultery and expressing contempt for our marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from Jason. Phase 1 complete. Moving to Phase 2 tomorrow. She still doesn't suspect? I typed back. She thinks it's all coincidental. Perfect execution so far. Laura thought she'd found her dream man, but she'd actually auditioned for her own destruction. The only question left was whether she'd ever realize how perfectly she'd been played. 3 weeks of silence. 3 weeks without Laura's voice, her demands, her constant dissatisfaction echoing through our house. I'd settled into a routine that felt more natural than 20 years of marriage. Coffee at sunrise, work until dark, evenings in my workshop. The divorce proceedings moved with bureaucratic efficiency. Laura's abandonment of the marriage, combined with her recorded confession of adultery, made the legal process straightforward. Our prenuptial agreement held firm. I was nursing a whiskey at Murphy's Tavern, a dim working-class bar where construction crews gathered after long days. The place smelled like sawdust and honest sweat. "Mike? Jesus, is that really you?" I looked up to see Jason Martinez approaching my table, his expensive suit standing out among the flannel shirts and work boots. My college roommate had transformed himself from a struggling student into a polished businessman. "Jason," I said, standing to shake his hand. "Hell of a coincidence." He slid into the booth across from me, signaling the bartender for a drink. "Not really a coincidence," he replied with a knowing smile. "I've been in town for a few days, wrapping up a consulting project. Figured I might find you here eventually." "Consulting project?" I asked. "Restaurant review for a resort chain," he explained. "They're expanding their operations in tourist destinations, needed someone to evaluate their food service management." He paused, studying my face. "How are you holding up, man? This whole situation with Laura must be rough." "I'm doing better than expected," I answered honestly. "Turns out I don't miss the constant criticism as much as I thought I would." "Any word from her since Mexico?" he asked casually. "Nothing," I replied. "Complete radio silence after I blocked her number." Jason nodded thoughtfully. "Probably for the best. Clean breaks are easier than drawn-out drama." He seemed to know more than he was letting on, and something about his careful neutrality triggered my suspicions. I'd spent decades reading people, workers trying to cover mistakes, contractors padding estimates. Jason had that same careful tone. "How did you know she went to Mexico?" I asked directly. "You mentioned it when you called for advice, remember?" He said smoothly. "The girl's trip to Cabo?" I hadn't mentioned Cabo specifically, just that Laura was traveling with friends. Jason had revealed knowledge he shouldn't possess. "Right. The girl's trip," I said slowly, studying his face. "Funny thing about that trip. Laura met someone down there. Resort owner named Ricardo." Jason's expression didn't change, but his hand tightened slightly around his beer bottle. "Really?" he asked. "What happened with that?" "Strangest thing," I continued, watching his reaction. "Guy seemed perfect for her. Successful businessman, wealthy, everything she claimed she wanted. But he disappeared the moment she ran into financial trouble. Like he was never really interested in her at all." "Huh," Jason said carefully. "That's rough." "Almost like the whole thing was orchestrated," I observed. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken understanding. Jason took a long drink, then set his beer down with deliberate care. "Mike, there's something I should tell you," he said finally. "I'm listening," I replied. "Ricardo doesn't exist," he said quietly. "At least not the way Laura met him." My heart rate didn't change, but something fundamental shifted in my chest. "What do you mean?" Jason reached into his jacket and pulled out a small digital recorder, setting it on the table between us. "I mean, I've been consulting at that resort for 3 months. I knew exactly when Laura would be there, exactly what type of man would appeal to her, and exactly how to trigger every one of her weaknesses." The revelation settled over me like warm water. Surprising, but somehow exactly what I'd been expecting. "You?" I asked. "Me?" he confirmed. "Jason Martinez, restaurant consultant visiting the resort on legitimate business." "But also Ricardo Martinez, charming resort owner with a tragic backstory about building his empire from nothing." He pressed play on the recorder. Laura's voice filled the space between us. "He's everything Michael isn't, Jen. Sophisticated, successful, passionate about life. And the way he looks at me, like I'm the most beautiful woman he's ever seen." Jason stopped the playback. "I have hours of this," he said. "Every conversation, every intimate moment, every plan she made to leave you for a better life." "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. "Since you called me a month ago?" he replied. You described a woman who'd been systematically preparing to cheat, someone who saw you as beneath her, someone who needed to learn the difference between fantasy and reality. The pieces clicked into place. Laura's spontaneous attraction to Ricardo, his perfect timing, his sudden disappearance when her money disappeared. She really thought she was trading up, I said. She thought she was trading up from a construction worker to a successful entrepreneur, Jason confirmed. Instead, she traded a loyal husband for a performance designed to expose her true character. Jason pulled out his phone and showed me photos, Laura posing seductively, sending selfies to Ricardo, writing detailed messages about her plans to divorce me and start fresh. She documented everything herself, he explained. Thought she was building a romantic scrapbook, but she was actually creating evidence of premeditated adultery. Where is she now? I asked. Last I heard, she made it back to the States, but not to your town, he said. She's working retail somewhere in Phoenix, living in a shared apartment, telling anyone who will listen that she was tricked and manipulated. Does she know? I asked. About me being Ricardo? Jason shook his head. I doubt it. She's probably convinced herself that she was the victim of cruel coincidence rather than strategic consequences. Jason raised his beer in a mock toast. To friendship and to justice served cold. I clinked my glass against his, feeling a complex mix of satisfaction and finality. Laura thought she was trading up from a construction worker to a dream man, but she'd actually graduated from a marriage to a master class in consequences. 9 months after Laura left for her girls' trip, I signed the final divorce papers. The prenuptial agreement Laura signed, without reading, had held completely. She received nothing from our 20-year marriage beyond her personal belongings. Laura never returned home after. Her trip ended in disaster. Word filtered back through mutual acquaintances that she'd drifted to Phoenix, working minimum-wage jobs and living in shared apartments. She told anyone who'd listen that she was tricked and manipulated, but the story made her sound delusional rather than sympathetic. Her former friends, embarrassed by their association with the scandal, had distanced themselves completely. I had rebuilt my life with quiet satisfaction. My work remained the same. I still managed construction projects, still worked hard with my hands, but now I did it for myself alone. The house felt peaceful rather than empty, and I'd rediscovered interests Laura had mocked or discouraged over our 2 decades together. The deeper truth was simple. I didn't destroy Laura's life. I simply removed the support system that had enabled her illusions. Without my money and stability, her real character was revealed to everyone, including herself. Justice wasn't served through elaborate punishment, but through the simple removal of protection from natural consequences. The foundation remains. Everything else can be replaced. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.